Hey guys, today I will be showing you how to replace a broken screen on an iPhone 5. Now there's something you guys should remember about the iPhone 5. There are 4 different models. This being the regular iPhone 5, which is the first model that came out. After that we have the iPhone 5C, which is the one that has the colorful backing. Then the iPhone 5S, which was the first model to release the fingerprint recognition on your home button. And the newly released iPhone 5 SE. Now this one, like I mentioned earlier, is a regular iPhone 5 and is the one that we will be working on today. Now the first thing that you guys need to take care of is your workstation. You want to make sure that it's clean, organized. You want to have the tools for the job. The organization of your workstation consists of, like I said, making sure that it's properly clean. You want to stay away from any rugs, any tablecloths, anything that could cause static electricity. We're trying to avoid any damages to your device. Now your tools, the ones that you see here are included inside of your kit, but we are only showing the ones that you will be using for this specific repair. Starting here, we have the pencil up screwdriver. Now, this screwdriver is used mainly to remove both of the screws located beside the charging port. That's the only purpose for the screwdriver. Then here we have the Phillips head screwdriver. This one is used to remove all the screws that are located inside of the device. Next, we have a plastic spudger. We will be using this to safely disconnect the cables that are coming from your display onto your device. Here we have a pair of tweezers. We use these to pick up any small components from inside the device, like screws or any other small parts pretty much. Here we have this suction cup pliers. Now these pliers are used to separate the screen from your device after we remove both of the screws located by the charging port. They are fairly easy to use and are extremely helpful. Here we have this decal. Now this decal is used on your display. This is going to be placed like so. And we use it to protect ourselves, to avoid any kind of injury like cutting ourselves, and also to help the suction from the pliers. Since the glass is broken, it won't adhere properly, so that's another reason to use this decal on your broken display. And finally, on this side, as you see, we have a box. Now this box is where our kit came in. We will be using this box to place our screws inside of it, all the small parts, and we will be creating kind of like a guiding map to ensure that we install all the screws in the corresponding location when we're reinstalling the display onto our device. Now the first step in the whole repair process is always shutting off your device. Now we're going to go ahead and press the power button for approximately 5 seconds until you actually get the option to slide and turn off. If your display is badly broken that you can actually see your display or you can't use the touch, you're going to go ahead and reset your device by pressing the power button and the home button for 5 to 10 seconds until your display or any lighting that you see on your display disappear. Now let's go ahead and press both of them until we see our display turn off, like so. Now you want to make sure that you do not press the power button after you do this step. If not, you will restart your device and we don't want that. Now the next step is installing our adhesive decal here. We're going to go ahead and remove the paper backing, placing that aside, and we're going to align it with the beginning of our display right above the home button, like so. And then using our plastic spudger, we're going to guide it above the decal to create a bubble-free bond. Now that we have installed this, we're going to go ahead and remove both of the pencil loop screws on the bottom of the device. After the removal process of each screw, we will be placing them inside of the box to ensure that we reinstall these as a pair. Okay, second screw. And as you see, I placed both of them together inside of my box. Now I know that both of them are a group of screws pretty much. If you guys have a pen or a marker handy, you could write some little notes inside of the box as well. Anything that could help you guys install everything where it belongs. Now that we remove both of the screws on the bottom of the device, we're going to use our suction cup pliers here to separate the screen. But you got to keep in mind that the screen is still attached by the cables, so we're only going to be opening the device. We're not going to be removing the screen yet. So let's go ahead and align this properly. The top suction cup always begins after the decal. After you align them, you're going to go ahead and create the suction necessary and then firmly press the handles to separate the screen, like so. Remember, the cables are still attached, so you cannot remove the screen just yet. Let's go ahead and remove our tool, placing it aside. Now we're going to open our screen to a 90-degree angle and finally see the EMI shield that we will be removing. Now this EMI shield has 3 hooks on the left side. So after we remove the screws, the shield is still going to be attached until we actually separate the hooks from the device itself. Now, the 2 screws on the bottom, they are the same size. Regardless of that fact, we're still going to ensure that we install these in the proper location, exactly the same location that we removed them from. Now the screw on the top, this screw here is actually longer than these 2, so we want to make sure that that one goes back to its location. It's also non-magnetic. The reason for the non-magnetism is so the magnetism from the screw itself doesn't interfere with the compass of the device. So you want to make sure that that screw goes back into that location right there. Now let's go ahead and begin removing the screws. I will be placing them in front of the camera just so you guys can see the difference in length. It's very minimal, but still will make a difference if you install any screw in an incorrect location. Okay, here we go, we have the second screw. Now, since we have hooks on this plate and the cables underneath, there is actually some tension on the plate itself. So when we remove the screw, we're going to leave the screwdriver on top of the screw to ensure that the plate itself, the tension from it, doesn't send our screw flying and we end up losing the screw itself. So let's go ahead and remove it and gently lift up like so. Okay. Now as you can see the difference in length of the screws. Like I said, very minimal, but still it matters. You want to make sure that you reinstall these exactly for where you removed them from. Now, the EMI shield itself, as you can see, is still hooked on. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide the shield towards the battery to release these hooks, like so. And we're going to lift it up, place it inside of our box, and then we're going to go ahead and place each single screw right next to the corresponding hole to make sure that we install them exactly where they belong. Okay, now that we have removed the EMI shield, it's time to remove the cable connections that are coming from the screen itself, from the display. The first one that you see here, this is your front camera. This cable controls the front camera, the ear speaker, your front microphone, and your proximity sensor. So let's go ahead and disconnect this one using the tip of our spudger. We're going to insert it right beneath the cable connection and gently pry it up, like so. We're going to follow the same procedure for the rest of the cables. Next, here we have our display. This is the cable for your LCD itself. Again, gently pry it up. And finally, we have the digitizer. Now the digitizer does tend to come loose by itself sometimes. If it doesn't, just follow the same procedure, gently prying it up. After you have disconnected all 3 cables, you have successfully removed your broken screen from your device. Okay, now here we have our new display. As you can see, it comes in this nice plastic packaging. Reason for the packaging is so it doesn't get damaged during the shipping. The screens are extremely delicate, and even if they arrived and work in order for you, you still need to take care of them during the installation. As you can see, the actual packaging has a cutout for the cables themselves. Now the cables are the most delicate part in the screens. You do not want to bend these, fracture them in any kind of way. Now, I actually do have an example of the cables that are actually broken on a display. Like I said, these are extremely delicate. Here we have an iPhone 5G screen. Now, we had a customer that purchased this and bent the cable. As you can see, it fractured. Now this screen no longer works. Make sure that you don't bend your cables, as this could happen to you and then you're going to have a non-working display. Now compare both of the screens, the one that we just removed and the one that we're going to install. As you can see, everything on the front looks the same, besides the fact that this one is broken. We have our home button, and on the back we have our thermal plate, we have our home button flex, our ear speaker, front camera, and then we have the proximity sensor underneath. Okay, everything is exactly the same. Now we're going to go ahead and install the screen. The first step in doing so is we're going to align the screen onto the device, trying our best to align the cables onto the connectors. Now we're not going to bend these cables, I'm just going to gently push them out of the way. As you can see, they're not bent in any kind of way. And we're going to align the digitizer with this connector as best as possible. We're also going to look for the socket, moving the flex side to side until you basically feel that the connector drops in place, and then you're going to gently press it. You're going to feel or hear a slight click. Now remember, the digitizer does tend to come loose by itself, like when we were removing the screen. So you want to make sure that you always keep that in mind and ensure that you always check the connection from the digitizer. After we have connected the digitizer, the LCD is fairly easy to align. We're still following the same procedures. We're going to move side to side to ensure that it falls in place, and then gently press until you hear or feel that click. Finally, we have the front camera. Now this cable is not as stiff as the other two, so we're going to go ahead and align it properly. It does take some more work, but if you follow the same procedures, you'll be able to install it properly. Now ensure that none of your connections came loose while you were installing the other two. As you heard right there, my digitizer actually did come loose. And ensure that it's connected. Now I'm going to go ahead and lower my display, rotate my device, and I'm going to install the EMI shield now. Now remember guys, the EMI shield does have those 3 little hooks right there. To install these, you're going to install them in the same angle that you removed it, sliding towards the outside of the device. Let's go ahead and do so. After you installed this properly, all your screw holes should align. Now with my finger, I'm going to go ahead and hold the shield down as I installed one of the 2 screws on the bottom, because they are magnetic. I will hold the screw in between my fingers and align it onto the tip of the screwdriver. There we go. Now when we're tightening any screws inside the device, we want to make sure that we don't over tighten them. So the moment that you feel your screwdriver stops turning, that's as far as you're going to go. Okay, so we have 1 screw on there. I could go ahead and remove my finger from the shield and reinstall the rest of the screws. Again, not over tightening them. Now using my tweezers, I'm going to pick up the last screw. Since it's not so magnetic, I'm going to go ahead and place it where it belongs. Alright guys, and then install it. Now the next step in this process is basically sealing your device. Now we're going to go ahead and align the top of your display onto the frame of the device. We do have some clips on the top, so you want to make sure that they fall in place by installing the screen in an angle and sliding towards the top and then lowering it. The top of your display should be flush with the frame before you actually begin lowering the rest of the screen. After it's nice and flush, go ahead and hold it there. And with your opposite hand, you're going to go ahead and give it some tension towards the top of the device. Then using my finger here, I'm going to go ahead and guide the sides into the device itself. Shouldn't take much effort. Now everything is nice and flush. It's time to reinstall both of the pentalobe screws on the bottom of the device. I will go ahead and place them where they belong. And then tighten them. Remember guys, not to over tighten any of the screws, especially these two, as if you were to strip the heads on these, it will be extremely difficult to gain access into this device. Alright, so we went ahead and reinstalled both of the pentalobe screws. Now you're going to go ahead and turn on your device, making sure that everything works. Now, what we're going to test on this screen, since it came pre-assembled, is going to be your front camera, your ear speaker, your proximity sensor, which everything is on top. Then we have the home button, and then the display itself. Now, the way that you guys are going to test these are with the ear speaker, you're going to make a phone call, make sure that you're able to hear the person on the other side. The proximity sensor is what shuts off your display when you're doing a phone call. Then we have the microphone. For the microphone itself, you could either do a FaceTime or you could do to the voice memos and record a memo, and basically that uses you for microphone. For the home button itself, let's go ahead and test it right now. Press the home button, make sure that it turns on your display. After, we're going to go ahead and test the touch. So we're going to go ahead and hold one of the icons down, make sure that everything starts wiggling, moving around. Pick one up and guide it all over your display. Make sure that it follows your finger every step of the way to ensure that the touch is working properly. Now to exit this function, again, we press the home button, and as you can see, it's working perfectly fine. All right. So if you guys have any lines, any white lines or any white squares on your display itself, that means that one of the connections is not made properly. So you want to go ahead and open your device once more, check those connections, especially the digitizer one, since it's the one that tends to come loose the easiest. And after you do that, then you go ahead and test the screen once more. If everything was working fine, then you guys have successfully done the repair on this iPhone 5. Now before we go guys, help us preserve the planet. We're going to go ahead and ship this back. We're going to place this inside of the box, the plastic packaging. We're going to go ahead and place it inside of the box that the actual display came in. And finally, we will place it inside the box that the kit came in, inside of this envelope, and drop it off in the nearest post office or mailbox. Okay. Now, that's it for the video, guys. Thank you.